Hi there, I'm Drew Badger, the world's #1 English fluency guide, and it is a pleasure to welcome you to another advanced listening practice lesson. I was really excited to release the previous one where I was talking about learning 10,000 English words, or really any language, whatever it is you want to study. There's a certain way to do that, so if you haven't seen that video, do check out that one. It is episode 22 in this series. Anyway, today I wanted to continue that because we are, as I mentioned in that video, releasing a whole bunch of new guides. Actually, 7 different new guides we'll be releasing in the near future, so I've been really busy working on those. But each one targets a specific area of fluency. So in this one, I'd like to kind of celebrate that and talk about that a little bit for this specific video, and that is how to get fluent or how to speak fluently. So I want to talk, hopefully I won't talk too long, and there's actually quite a bit more revealed in the actual guide I'll be releasing called Speak English Fluently, but what I'd like to do is just give a little bit of overview in this video, so hopefully it will give you some good ideas to think about as you're starting to learn, and hopefully it will also just get you a bit more excited, and hopefully also clear up, or, this is a great conversational phrasal verb, to clear up, to make something a bit more clear and easy to understand. So hopefully this clears up what fluency means, and so you can kind of think about that and actually get fluent a bit more quickly. Anyway, as I like to begin all of these episodes, because I will be speaking a bit more clearly, hopefully I'll try to be speaking more clearly, but more quickly, I'll be speaking more quickly in this video. So if you're not used to the sound of my voice or the speed at which I'll be speaking, which will be native or faster than native speed, what I'd like you to do, please, is go back and enjoy some of the previous videos I've made where I'm specifically focusing on, it's like still early for me over here in Japan, but I was excited to make this video, so here I am. Anyway, so if you go back and watch those videos, you'll see a lot more things where I'm specifically focusing on grammar or learning, helping you learn some idioms or other phrasal verbs or something like that. But this series is where we put it all together, so you get to listen to the sound of my voice at native speed. Anyway, if you're ready for the video, let me make sure I'm ready. Get my smile on my face, my video face. Here we go. Let's begin the lesson. All right, so I thought I would do something cool today, just to show you kind of how, people talk about fluency, and people don't really have a simple definition of what fluency is, and, in a way that we could talk about being fluent in a particular language versus being fluent in, like being able to play a sport fluently, something like that. So before I talk about what fluency is, what fluency means, I'd like to show you what fluency looks like and kind of how it develops, and I'd like to do this in Japanese. So I haven't prepared anything, but, hopefully I'm just kind of talking about it, but using a little bit of Japanese because it's easier for you to understand that way, as opposed to seeing it in English because you already know quite a bit of English. So if you're already a Japanese speaker, you're native Japanese, or you just know Japanese, you'll probably understand what I'm saying. Don't worry, I'll put some subtitles in the video anyway. But hopefully it doesn't confuse things for you. Anyway, so let's begin by, let's say it's my first week learning Japanese and I'm trying to have a conversation with someone. Now I basically know no Japanese at all, so I just want to learn and I just want to say something, but I can't quite remember how to say the word clock. So the regular clock, like a ticking clock that's up on the wall. So when I'm talking to someone and I honestly, my Japanese is very bad, so I can't explain anything. So I might do something like this. I might say, Maru, 1, 2, 3, ichi, ni, san, shi, and that's about all I can do. Now I'm trying to use maybe a little bit of English is coming in there. Maybe I'm trying to explain it like that, like Maru, meaning circle, and I'm talking about numbers on the side of that. So I say maybe ichi, ni, san, shi, go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But again, this is because I have basically no understanding of the language really, and it's even a simple word that I don't know. So I'm trying to use gestures, and I'm trying to use very basic knowledge that I do have to explain something that I don't. And when I'm able to do that, using gestures and so on, like maru, maru, and I'm not even pronouncing very well either. So I'm saying maru, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm just, it's a very basic explanation, much like a child would do. So I don't really understand much Japanese, and that's the way I would do it. Now, let's say I've progressed a little bit more, and the person was able to understand me. Oh, okay, they understand clock. So I'm talking about the word tokei. Tokei. So I'm not trying to teach Japanese, but that's where the word is here. So anyway, we're moving, and let's say I progress a little bit further. My fluency is maybe a little bit better. The things I would add, you'll kind of see. Well, I'll show you first in Japanese how I would explain it. And then we'll talk a little bit more about how it would be in English. So let's say I'm in the conversation and I can't remember what clock is. I would say, すみません。これは何ですか？丸い1、2、3、4、5。あ、時計。時計。ありがとうございます。Now again, right now my pronunciation is maybe a little bit better, but I'm using a bit more things, like the two things that are different really. Number one, I'm using filler words in the Japanese language instead of my own filler language. So instead of saying, I would say, or I could say something like, ですね。ですね。And these are just, it's again the same thing in English that it would be in Japanese, but I'm using filler language to ask, a particular question or to give a little bit of hesitation in a native Japanese way. So in the same way the native Japanese speaker would pause and hesitate, people don't always, have a clear idea of what they want to say, and they want to say something just so they can speak. So this is where filler words come into the equation. So to come into the equation, this is actually a really great native way of saying where something happens or something becomes part of the situation. So filler words are becoming part of the equation. The other thing I'm adding are particular phrases that I practice, like, excuse me, sumimasen. Sumimasen, excuse me, and like, what is this? Like, kore wa nan desu ka? What is this? Kore wa nan desu ka? So even if my pronunciation is not very good, a Japanese person can understand what I'm saying. So I've gone from just saying like circle and maybe a few numbers or something like that to becoming a little bit more fluent by just adding a few phrases into that. So I'm still using the same thing like maru, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but in Japanese. So again, it's a little bit tricky in my mind trying to explain both of these things. But the point is I move from just saying individual words, much like a baby would, to getting a little bit more fluent by using filler words and particular phrases that I've memorized that I just use over and over again. Now, if I want to get a little bit more creative and my fluency is a little bit stronger, then maybe I'm actually thinking about it. And at the same time, I'm trying to learn more information, not just about the word, but maybe, a little bit more about a clock in and of itself. So here we go. So I'm going to ask in Japanese, and my fluency is a little bてstronger. すいません。ね、なんていうの、丸いやつでしょ。もう、1、2、3、4、5が書いてありますけどね。なんていうの、それは。手があるでしょ。時計です。時計でしょ。もうそれ忘れちゃったね。時計でしょ。時計が、手じゃなくて、針でしょ。針がある。針ですね。それは面白いですね。勉強になりましたね。ありがとうございます。All right. So right there, I'm just, I'm speaking fluently, but I'm not really explaining anything, or I'm kind of learning like a little bit of new information. The new information I learned is like in English, we would talk about the hands of a clock, and in Japanese, we're talking about the needles on a clock. So it's basically the same thing, but we're pronouncing it in a different way or saying it in a different way, but explaining it, basically the same thing. Anyway, I'm getting like a little bit confused in my own mind trying to use both of these languages. Now, when I use them normally, the real thing about fluency here that I want you to see is that fluency doesn't mean having an extensive vocabulary. It means being able to speak and continuing to move freely, kind of like water does. Now, water is lazy, but water is also something it can kind of move around corners, and when it gets to something it doesn't know, it just goes around it. So in the same way, I'm in a conversation. すみません。ね。 So I'm hesitating, I'm pausing, but I'm still moving. I'm using my fluent Japanese in order to explain something when I don't have anything to say. So then I take some words that I do know how to say, like sono marui yatsu desu ne. Like that round thing, suji ga kaite arimasu ne. Like there are numbers written on it. Nanti no ne. So this is a more native way of saying, like, kore wa nan desu ka? I'm saying, like, nanti no ne, nanti no ne. And so this is the same thing I would do if I'm learning English. So the English equivalent would be, how do you call this in English, or what do you call this in English? You'd say, like, whatchamacallit, whatchamacallit, whatchamacallit. So what's that thing? What do you call that? What do you call that? What do you call that in English? So I'm taking the phrase, like I practiced it. This is the regular thing I would find in a textbook, but I'm saying it in a native way. So moving from fluency, really what I'm trying to show you here is that fluency isn't about knowing a lot of words. It's about moving like water through a conversation by taking the things you already know and then using that in a situation that's novel. And so really this is what, being able to respond automatically or to respond in a fluent way or to speak fluently means. It doesn't mean knowing a lot of words. It just means, having a basic vocabulary and then actually using that when you get into conversations. Now, the tricky thing, obviously, is you have to have some kind of courage in order to speak when you don't know what you're talking about. But if you use it as an opportunity to learn something and you don't mind, actually trying to learn something from the situation, then you're going to feel much better about it. So don't worry about what you might lose. Like, okay, somebody laughs at me for not knowing what the word clock is in Japanese. All right, whatever. But in my own experience, it's my opportunity to actually take something and learn something new. So, all right, like we'd learned what the word clock is, and we also discovered that we don't call them hands of a clock, we call them needles. So in the same way that I'm like learning something new, I'm learning it in the language by speaking fluently. And again, it doesn't mean I know a whole bunch of words. It means I'm taking a limited vocabulary and kind of piecing it together in different ways. So other things could also be circles. I could be talking about, like, what do you call that thing, like the vehicle with two circles on it, something like that, like maru ga futatsu no nanti no ne. Nanti no. So again, I'm practicing these things over and over again. And instead of saying, like, kore wa nan desu ka? What do you call this? I'm saying, like, what do you call it? But in Japanese. So we got these stages of fluency that develop. So it begins with like learning some basic vocabulary. Adding to this, the next step would be learning some filler words. And then you're also learning a few phrases that are used often enough that you would have to, basically you would remember them just by using them as frequently as you do in conversation. So what is this? What is this? What is this? What is that? These kinds of things, you use them over and over in conversations and you learn to remember them naturally. So you combine these two together, and then as you develop your use of the language, this is how your pronunciation improves as well. So all of these things are actually things that you can work on individually. So there's vocabulary building, there's the actual fluency building, which is just really developing the practice of being able to move like water in a conversation. So, you don't know what that word is? All right, whatever. I guess you're going to take a different word and try to explain it using something else you do know. So I don't know the word clock. Tokei wa wakaranai ne. I don't know what clock is, but I do know how to say circle, and I do know how to count in Japanese and kind of use gestures, and that's how I would do it. So this is how you develop fluency. Don't worry about making mistakes. The whole point is to learn something and to try getting into something new. And as you're moving and learning things throughout the process, you're taking something like even something basic like learning a clock, and then you're learning the pieces of that. Like maybe you don't know what gear means, or you don't know what like hand in one language means, needle in something else, or maybe it means, a completely different thing in a different language. But it's something you only learn if you're willing to get fluent and actually take the time to do that. So hopefully this video has cleared up a little bit. Again, we're clearing up the idea. We're trying to make something clear and a bit more easy to understand. So hopefully this has cleared up the idea of what really fluency is and how you develop it. So just to review this again, I want to make this really clear for you. To begin, we start with just having a basic vocabulary and then taking that and applying it to novel situations or to new words or phrases that we don't really know. So we're taking, again, a word like circle, and we've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's all my vocabulary in Japanese. I don't know how to say anything else. I know how to say maru, and even if my pronunciation is bad. So regular Japanese pronunciation of a native speaker would be like maru, 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 maruine, marui. Toge ga marui desu ne. Marui. But if I'm just learning the language, maybe I say maru, 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 which just means circle. So again, the pronunciation is something that you can kind of put on after that, but we don't worry about pronunciation because you can study fluency and actually become fluent without being able to sound like a native speaker. But we talk about fluency as being something that once you kind of develop the ability to move like water through a conversation, then you can really take your, ability to speak a language or a different language. Excuse me, I'm talking even too quickly for myself here. But the pronunciation is kind of what we call the icing on the cake. It's the additional part, the kind of bonus. This is actually something I'm teaching in Master English Conversation this month. But so we're talking about the icing on the cake. So the pronunciation is something that's not terribly important for being able to speak fluently, but obviously if you can communicate with being able to be understood, then that's really the ideal thing you should be shooting for. To shoot for something means the thing you should be aiming at. So hopefully this has made fluency a bit more clear, and when you think about like, well, this person is fluent or that person is fluent, really, it's the ability to move like water in a situation where even if it's novel or you're responding to someone, whatever that situation happens to be. So it's the same thing in sports. You might not do it like as perfectly as you'd like to, but you can continue moving. You can, if you're stuck here, you continue moving this way, something like that. So think of yourself like water in a situation and you will develop fluency much better. So as I'll just cover this one last time, build your vocabulary of basic things you can learn. Add fluent, the way people pause, because that's the way people do it in natural conversations using filler language and other little phrases that you learn. And then just continue to work on it, adding, maybe the improvement of pronunciation or a bit more vocabulary, other things like that. But really the goal is to be speaking such that you learn the language you're learning in that language. And when I mean that, and like you're actually having a conversation with someone, like I was like, oh, so 手じゃなくて、手じゃなくて、針ですね。面白いね。So I'm saying like, it's not a hand, it's a needle. And so, I'm learning that in the context of the conversation, and it helps me remember that much more easily. Anyway, I'm getting so excited over here. It just really, I wanted to share that with you, and we'll be talking about this more in the guide, Speak English Fluently, that I'll be releasing soon. But hopefully, I need to sit down, just have like I get so excited when I talk about these ideas, because these are the things that help me learn to speak fluently in Japanese. And again, it doesn't mean I have a billion words. I don't know everything about Japanese, but I know how to get into a conversation with anybody talking about pretty much anything and be able to move like water through that. So if you'd like to do that as well, that's how you do it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Be sure to like, share it with 3 people, whomever it is you think is also trying to get fluent in English or whatever other language, and hopefully they will benefit from this video as well. And become a subscriber. Yeah, you should absolutely subscribe to this channel if you're not already a subscriber, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. To continue learning, click on the link in this video to download Speak English Naturally, our free guide to speaking and sounding like a native English speaker. The guide reveals the 3 most important kinds of conversational English you must learn if you want to sound native, and will help you experience instant improvement in your fluency and speaking confidence. To download your free guide on a mobile device, click on the link in the upper right of this video. To download your free guide from a computer, click on the link in the lower right of this video. I look forward to seeing you in the guide.